Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be doing a bit of a response video to one which I'd seen like James Griffiths and Richard McCook do together, which was called Battle of the Sides, essentially where they were kind of choosing albums where they thought that one side was particularly stronger or better than the other. So they had a list of ones where side 1 was better and then a kind of list where side 2 was better. So this I thought was a great idea for a video. It's what I think I actually ended up, I did kind of think about doing myself quite a few months back, but I was really struggling to actually think of any particularly for the side 2s, but I kind of got my act together and I've come up with a list of 10 each, so it might be quite a long video, but I'll try not to whitter on too much. Okay, so the first 10, as I said, are ones where I think that side 1 is particularly stronger or better, and this is the record where I kind of got the original idea for the video. It is The Charlatans and Telling Stories. Now this album, I just remember playing one day and thinking, wow, this is really good. Side 1, it's basically all the singles, so it's you got One to Another, North Country Boy, Telling Stories. It's a really good track list, but then by the time I then flipped it over to side 2, the record just got very samey, and it's kind of got this slightly kind of Manchester Britpop sound to it, but it just felt like they were just treading water on side 2, and to be honest, I kind of got bored very quickly. So this was an obvious one where I think side 1 is a lot stronger than side 2. And then once I thought of that one, I thought of 9 more, so I just rattled through them. So next one would be R.E.M. and Murmur here, their debut album. Now I do love this album, it's very quickly became one of my favourite albums from 1983, but I'm including it in this list primarily because I think side 1 is pretty much perfect. It starts off with Radio Free Europe, you've got things then Laughing and I Talk About the Passion, and then it closes off with Perfect Circle, and side 2 is still really good. I think the only track for me which kind of reaches the heights of side 1 would be Sitting Still. There's a couple of slightly lesser tracks, things like We Walk and I think Shaking Through, 9-9, which are still good, but there's a definite drop off in quality by the time you get to side 2 of this album for me. Okay, next one I'm going for is the Beatles and the Help album here. So of course this is the soundtrack to the film, and it's kind of a bit like the Hard Day's Night soundtrack, all the film songs on side 1 and then kind of extras and kind of other tracks on side 2. But there's a very much a noticeable quality difference, I think, between the two sides on this album. I'd say the first side is probably every bit as good as Rubber Soul, I would say, in terms of quality of songs. They're all here, Help, You've Got to Hide Your Love Away, George Harrison's I Need You is great, and then Ticket to Ride, You're Gonna Lose That Girl. A lot of cracking songs on side 1. I think it's very consistent, one of the Beatles' best sides of music, I would say. But side 2 is kind of where this album does start to, I don't want to be too cruel and say fall apart, but you get a couple of covers which are a bit, by this point, in the Beatles' career, was a bit lazy, I think, things like Act Naturally, and then the closer Dizzy Miss Lizzie, and then you've then got some slightly lesser original materials, things like It's Only Love, George Harrison's You Like Me Too Much, and Tell Me What You See I do quite like, but it's certainly not one of the Beatles' best or most noteworthy songs. But I suppose you have got Yesterday also on side 2, so that definitely helps the back end of this album. But no, it's certainly one where I think the first side is noticeably stronger. Another one of my favourites here, where again I think there's this noticeable difference, is Station to Station by David Bowie. So there's only 6 tracks on this album, but I'd say side 1 is pretty much flawless. You've got the title track, the epic title track, you've got Golden Years, and then Word on a Wing, which is one of my favourite Bowie album tracks. But side 2, there's a definite noticeable difference in quality. I think TVC15, again, it's fun while it's on, but it's not one I would necessarily seek out. Stay's really good though. Again, quite long but good though. They settle into a really good groove on that one. And then Wild Is the Wind. Again, it's the kind of obligatory cover song on the album. And again, it's good. It's a good closer, but again, it's not one I would necessarily seek out. Station to Station which is still a pretty damn good album, like absolutely. But yeah, one where I think like side 1 is definitely that bit stronger. Okay, next one's probably quite a controversial one, I would say, but I'm going for XTC's Skylarkin. So, yeah, this is one I always find myself when I'm listening to side 1 thinking, wow, this is one of the greatest albums ever made. It's XTC's masterpiece. It's just stunning. But then side 2, I think there's a couple of slightly more fillery tracks, things like, for me anyway, like The Man Who Sailed Around Your Soul has never been one of my favourites. A couple of slightly lesser colour moulding songs, things like Dying, possibly Sacrificial Bonfire Again, and they are not among my favourite XTC songs. But yeah, I just kind of find, like, yeah, side 1, like, a bit more, it kind of holds together, like, a little bit better, you know, like, kind of like that journey from, like, kind of like through, like, the first, like, so, like, 4 or 5 songs. It's just really great. But I think it's a great album, like, all round. But yeah, again, one where like that's one where side 1 I think is just that bit stronger. Next one here is The Beautiful South. I'm going for the album Meow here. Again, this is a record where like when I start listening to it, I think, yeah, this is my favourite Beautiful South album, you know, like hands down. Because side 1 is just so good, like things like Hold On To What, the opener, Good As Gold, which is one of the singles, Prettiest Eyes is also on there as well, Worthless Lie has really grown on me a lot as well. But then side 2, I mean, there's some good songs, but again, it just doesn't quite hold together quite as well. And certainly, like, I think like the last 2 tracks are the worst, like, on the album, so that it kind of ends it like on a slightly sour note, I think, for me. And would I say it's my favourite of their albums still? I mean, possibly yes, I think. Like, but it's still it's not a perfect album, and I think it's because of side 2, particularly towards the end of side 2, which I think lets the album down a little bit. Okay, next one up is Look Sharp here by Joe Jackson. Now, this is one where when I see this album, or I'm kind of flicking through or thinking about favourite albums, this is one I always kind of think of. You know, I probably think this is on balance, probably Joe Jackson's best album, but it is very much front-loaded with the best material. So you got One More Time, Sunday Papers, and Is She Really Going Out With Him? I think those were all the singles as well, if I'm not mistaken. And, I mean, they are all great songs, great 10 out of 10 songs. Happy Loving Couples is really good. Throw It Away is a slightly, throwaway song. But then side 2, there's not really a lot on side 2 worth going back to for me. I think like the title track's pretty good. Pretty Girls is quite good. But, there's definitely, for me, a difference in quality between side 1 and side 2, and I think it's just because, like a lot of albums, they tended to kind of front-load them, like with, like the singles. Okay, next one up is one of my favourite bands, a really underrated band. I think I've talked about them a few times on my channel, but the Lilac Time, this is the album, and Love For All, a really great kind of psychedelic pop album, co-produced by Andy Partridge and John Leckie. So if you're a fan of XTC, this will be right up your street. And for me, this is a really strong album, particularly like the first side, kicking off with Fields, and then All For Love and Love For All is great. Let All Ambient One Like is a nice wee ballad, and then a couple of great songs like I Went to the Dance and Wait and See is just, it's just kind of psychedelic pop perfection, really. But side 2, I mean, there's a couple of decent tracks. The Laundry, like, is a really good opener to side 2. It's probably my favourite, like, on the album, actually. And then, like, It'll End in Tears is also good. But yeah, there's definitely a drop-off in quality for me, like, by the time you get towards the end, like, of side 2 there. Okay, next one now is by the New Pornographers. It's Mash Romantic, their debut album from, I think, the year 2000 this one came out. If you've not heard of them, they're really great. I think they're like a Canadian band, very kind of power poppy, kind of, I guess, compare them to maybe like the Cars, I'd say, but maybe particularly like on like this album, a bit more high energy to them. Also a bit of the ELO in there, like as well, I'd say, like in places. Like maybe not so much like on this album, but certainly later albums, like very kind of like power pop. But this one is one I would definitely pick because side 1 is just really fresh and very, like, your high energy kind of songs, but then side 2, that kind of sound just starts to become a little bit, and I don't say too much, but it kind of just, it doesn't feel quite as fresh, like, for me, like, by the time you get to side 2, even though it probably has got the best song, like, on here, like, on it, like, Letter From an Occupant, like, open side 2, which is a stunning song, but yeah, definitely for me, I think side 1 is like what I end up returning to most often. Okay, and now last one where I prefer side one is the Blue Niles A Walk Across the Rooftops. Now, this, I think side one is flawless on here. You know, you've got the title track to open it, you've then got Tinseltown at In the Rain, and then From Rags to Riches, which is just a beautiful atmospheric song. And again, side two is really good. It starts off with a really good song, Stay, but then there's a couple of slightly lesser songs, things like Easter Parade and the close of like Automobile Noise. Again, they're still really good and like they really fit in with the album, but they're just maybe not the songs which I necessarily go to. So I definitely think side one like is a lot stronger with the Blue Niles A Walk Across the Rooftops. Okay, now we're on to the albums now where I think side two is the strongest side. Now this is like in like James and Rich's video, like what they said was a bit more tricky to kind of sort of think of, and I was like certainly like the same. Like I was kind of struggling almost to kind of come up with 10, but I've managed to think of 10, so I'll just run through those like now. So first one, what kind of came to mind quite quickly was the Talking Heads 77. Now this one, again, side one kicks off really good with Uh-Oh, Love Comes to Town, but then there's a couple of slightly lesser tracks like on side one, things like New Feelings, Tentative Decisions, Who Is It? Just yes, I mean they're very oddball, very goofy songs, but I just think like they're just like no comparison, I think, to some of the material like on side two, which kicks off with the fantastic, like The Book I Read. You then got Don't Worry About the Government, First Last Week, Carefree is maybe like the weak link on side two, but then the last two tracks, Psycho Killer and Pulled Up, are just absolutely stunning. So for me, this is an album which I think actually gets better and better like as like it goes on, which I think like can only be like a good thing. So yeah, Talking Heads 77 would be my first one. Another one which came to mind relatively quickly was Wildlife by Wings here, like Paul McCartney Wings' first album. This is, one where there's definitely a kind of contrast for me between the two sides. I mean, side one, there's really not a lot of substance on side one. You've got Mumbo, which is this kind of band sort of jam. It's good, but just with this kind of nonsense singing, bit pop, which is a very simple song, but it's far too long. Love is Strange, which is a cover, and then Wildlife is the first original proper song, which is probably my least favourite, like of like the original proper songs like on here. But side two is actually really good, like on this album. Some People Never Know is like a great ballad between Paul and Linda, like as is like I Am Your Singer, and then you've got Tomorrow, which I think is an underrated gem, like in his catalogue, and Dear Friend. So yeah, only 4 songs aside, but side 2 is definitely the stronger side for me with Wings Wildlife. Another kind of easy one for me to think of was The Who and the album A Quick One. So this was a very weird album for The Who. It's the second album, 1966 it came out, and I'm not sure what kind of possessed them to do this, but they kind of wanted to become a bit more collaborative like on this album. So you've got contributions from all like writing contributions from all 4 members, which means you've got like one Roger Daltrey composition, which is See My Way, which is actually quite good, but then 2 John Entwistle songs which are not very good, and 2 Keith Moon songs which are awful. So this is a very, very, very patchy album, but side 2 is really, really strong, I think. So you've got Don't Look Away, which is I'd say that's a lost Pete Townsend Who gem. Like, you know, that could have been a single. It's very catchy, very commercial, but yeah, a really great song. So Sad About Us is on side 2 as well, and then you've then got the epic A Quick One While He's Away, which is this kind of proto rock opera thing, kind of like sort of like Tommy's Father, I think Pete Townsend like has like referred it to. So yeah, one where there's a definite contrast like between like the 2 sides for me. The Who, A Quick One. Next one now, I'm possibly slightly cheating with this one, if I'm being honest, but, well, I say slightly cheating, I mean, it is still a side, but it's kind of one song, so it's Pink Floyd's Medal. So, side 1 is kind of just kind of typical songs, like, you know, you've got, like, One of These Days, which is very kind of bass sort of driven, like, instrumental. You've got things like Fearless, which is really good. You've got Pillow of Winds, which is this very kind of almost kind of pastoral kind of folk song, and then a couple like of other slightly lesser songs, things like San Tropez and Seamus, which is just a bit rubbish. But side 2 is the epic Echoes, which I think is one of Pink Floyd's best ever songs, and yeah, it kind of really elevates this album, and is very much it's very much like the centerpiece like of the album. So yeah, Pink Floyd's Medal would be my 4th pick. So those were the obvious ones that I can think of, but we kind of I don't say I was struggling a little bit, but these are ones where there's maybe where there's still some really good stuff on side 1, but I just think side 2 has the slight edge over side 1. So first one is like the Rain Parade, and this is Emergency Third Rail Power Trip, really good kind of, again, if you're into like your kind of psychedelic kind of 60s rock, this is a great album, but it's from 1983, it was kind of part of like that kind of psychedelic revival, and the reason why I'm saying side 2 on this, I think just the material just comes into focus a lot more like on side 2, you know. Side 1 is still really good, there's some really great stuff on there. Talking in My Sleep like is a great opener, very reminds me a lot of the Beatles song Rain, that, you know, it's got a very kind of similar kind of rolling bass line like on like that one, but I think side 2 is just slightly stronger. You've got like jangle pop things like Look Both Ways, What She Done to Your Mind, and then the more progressive material as well, like Look at Mary, which is I think the best track on here, and Kaleidoscope like as well. So yeah, I think side 2 just has the edge with the Rain Parade, Emergency Third Rail Power Trip. Next one for me is Simon and Garfunkel's album Sounds of Silence. So I mean, side 1 is still pretty strong on here. You've got the title track, which is Grey, and then Leaves That Are Green, which is a really, really nice song. But then side 1 then kind of falls apart a little bit. Blessed is not a great song. Kathy's song is quite nice, and then you've then got 2 filler songs, Somewhere They Can't Find Me, which is just a kind of upbeat kind of reworking of Wednesday Morning 3 a.m. and then Angie, which is a kind of pointless like instrumental. But side 2 I think is just that you just got I think 4 all-time Simon and Garfunkel classics with Homeward Bound, Richard Corrie, April Come She Will, and finishing with I Am a Rock. So I just think, yeah, side 2 just has a couple more kind of standout material, like standout songs there. But all round a really strong album though. Okay, next one for me is another fairly recent discovery. It's this album by Altered Images, Bite. So this was I think Richard McCook's favourite album from 1983, and this is very, very, very good. But I do definitely prefer side 2. The side 1 is good, but it's just there's a couple of slightly slower tracks, things like Love to Stay and Another Lost Look are a little bit more low key. But side 2 is where I think this album really comes into its own, with the classic single Don't Talk to Me About Love, and then also Change of Heart, which is possibly my favourite like on the album. It's a really great song, and so that's why I think side 2 just has the edge a little bit with Bite. Okay, next one up is the Smiths debut album, self-titled debut album, and yeah, this was another one which I kind of thought of relatively quickly, but I wasn't sure whether to include, but definitely looking at like the chart listing now, side 2 I think does have the edge, you know. Side 1 opens really well with Real Around the Fountain and You've Got Everything Now, great songs, but then it kind of does sort of fall apart a little bit. Miserable Lie is one of my least favourite Smith songs. Pretty Girls Make Graves quite good, and The Hand That Rocks the Cradle is a bit kind of Smiths by numbers. But side 2, just the run of songs on side 2, Still Ill, Hand in Glove, What Difference Does It Make, I Don't Owe You Anything, doesn't really get much better than that. And then the closing one, Suffer Little Children, I do kind of, again, it's not what I would necessarily seek out, but I think it kind of works well like as like the closer. So yeah, definitely for me one where side 2 has the edge. Okay, penultimate one now is Echo and the Bunnymen's debut album called Crocodiles. So this one is again, side 1 is good on this album, that, you know, particularly the first 2 tracks, Going Up and Stars Are Stars, are great, but there's a couple slightly more punkier kind of high energy songs, things like Monkeys and Crocodiles, which yeah, I mean, they're okay, but I think, yeah, just kind of don't really stand out much. But side 2, like, on the other hand, starts off with Rescue. You then got Villiers Terrace, Pictures on My Wall, and All That Jazz, which I think just have a lot more like a lot more like melodic. I think a bit more, I don't say commercial sounding, but they definitely stand out a lot more for me. And then Happy Death Men to end is quite good as well. Like quite good horns on that one as well. So yeah, what I would say overall, I prefer side 2. Okay, our last one to finish up now is Cafe Blue by the Style Council. So this one, again, was a slightly, one where I was slightly on the fence with it a little bit, because side 1 has got some really good songs in it, particularly the piano version of My Ever Changing Moods, which is a really nice version of it, a really good like alternate version there. You've also got The Whole Point of No Return, of No Return, which isn't listed, but it is on the album there, and then also the Paris Match, although it's the Tracy Thorn vocal version. But side 2, and again, side 2's probably got a couple of slightly lesser tracks, things like A Gospel and Council Meeting, but you've got a run of 3 Style Council classics for me there, like You're the Best Thing, Here's One That Got Away, and Head Start for Happiness, which I think just gives side 2 the edge a little bit, and kind of rescue this album for me, because it is one of my least favourite Weller albums. This, I think it's just a bit puzzling, and I guess he was trying to be like eclectic with this album and kind of throw everything at it, but it just for me doesn't really hold together. But those 3 songs I think are good side 2, just really I think rescue the album and make it a worthwhile release there. So yeah, that's the Style Council. Okay, so as we come to the end of this video, that's my 10 albums where I prefer side 1 and 10 albums where I prefer side 2. So yeah, thanks to Rich and James for kind of thinking up this video and kind of coming up with the idea. Really good idea. So I will link that in the description, their video. If you've got any other suggestions for albums I could have picked, please let me know in the comments, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.